Hello everybody, how are you guys doing? I am about to retouch a set of photos that I took yesterday at an event for Mundolingo. And I figured, you know what, this time I'm going to record myself retouching those videos just to, perhaps give you something that you can use for yourself. Perhaps a little bit of inspiration, perhaps a little bit of a conversation starter. You can always get back to me, let me know if you have any questions or insights or any suggestions to what I could do better. Or, if anything, perhaps this might help you improve your own skills a little or gain a little bit of new perspective when it comes to retouching photos that you have. First disclaimer, this video is going to be probably not too short, and secondly, it's going to be absolutely and entirely subjective. This is how I retouch my photos, and your mileage is most definitely going to vary. And in addition, I'm using a software that you are very likely not going to be using. It's called Darktable, and the reason you won't be using it is because it's only available on Linux. Actually, it's also available on Mac. Just to be clear, it's available on Mac. So hey, if you have a Mac, you can use this one. I really love Darktable, but you should know that Darktable is not too different from raw therapy or everybody's darling, I would assume, Adobe Lightroom. So if you have Lightroom, then what I'm doing right now here is going to be recognizable to you as well. So why don't we just jump right into it, and we're going to go through these photos one by one, and I'm just going to give you my notes and explain to you why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is going to be very fast, but you can always pause the video to see what I'm doing in any module. We are looking at the photo light table view where we just see all the photos laid out, and none of these have been touched up in any way. Actually, I think I did the last two, but hey. And we're going to start at the beginning. I'm going to double click to enter the darkroom module or the darkroom section, and in here we're going to start with this first photo. First thing is something that the Canon EOS cameras do, and especially my EOS 6D does. It turns stuff yellow, especially in the settings in the environment that I'm shooting in, which is the bars in Montreal. In particular, actually, in this bar, there is a type of light that is already pretty yellow, and the camera brings that out. So the first thing I do, actually, no, that's wrong. The first thing I do is I apply a standard style that I apply to everything. This is just a set of rules that I made for myself that just immediately applies a little to each photo. This includes noise reduction and a little bit of equalizer to add some local contrast. And what was the third thing it does? Hot pixels. Oh yeah, it removes whatever hot pixels are in the picture. So this is something that I apply to every picture by default. Next thing we want to do is lower the temperature a little. You can see it's at 3633K. I'm going to go down to 2900, and you can already see it's not that yellow anymore. We have a little bit more natural colors. We could perhaps even turn it a little bit more towards red, just a slight bit. And perhaps it's a little too cold. I like to have some warmth in the photos, so why don't we go to this 3179. And this is just me, but I love the 16:9 format or widescreen because I love when I can make stuff look cinematic. So we can go here and crop it like that, and we're going to crop this out because you see this little edge here of the guy's hat. That's going to be distracting. So we can go down here, and here's our photo. Now she's the main center of attention of this photo, and it looks great. Next photo. Again, I think 16:9 is perfectly fine. We don't need all that stuff at the top, and we can crop out this little corner here. There we go. No more distractions. I'm going to put my standard filter, and oops. And what I actually want to do with this photo, because I'm just not too happy with the yellow way it looks, and I tried this before, I can't really correct it. I can, but it's not going to be as cool as if I just turn it black and white. And I go to the curve, where is it, the tone curve, and I bring up the highs a little bit, and perhaps just lower the lows a tiny bit, give it a nice, big amount of contrast, and now we have a cool photo that has a little bit of character. I'm going to add a vignette. I have a preset here that removes the saturation from the vignette. Doesn't even make a difference here, but so now this guy is the center of attention, and we can remove the brightness, lower the brightness of the vignette as well. You can see here in the small video version, you can't really see that there's a vignette, but if you know it's, unless you know it's there, you can see the difference here. And we have a little bit more mood in this photo. Same thing here. I don't think we need this bit up here. It's just distracting. Like, it's not part of the photo. And the main interesting part of the photo is this guy. So what we're going to do is we're going to crop it again, but in this case we can go to the normal original image aspect and just bring this down all the way to here. Let's bring this up a little. Something like that seems fine. And here he is in all his glory. And I put the 100 pixel clarity. I'm going to use the equalizer. So the equalizer is a tool that allows you to in a very fine grained manner control local contrast. If you go here, it's very coarse. So if I put this up to the top, you see that there are going to be very blurry, soft transitions between the local contrasts. I'm just going to double click to bring this back. If you double click on any of these lines, you reset it. It's the same thing as doing this. And if I go very fine, like here for instance, then I enhance the local contrast on a very small scale. You can see if you look at his eyebrows or if you look at his beard, at his stubble, it becomes more pronounced. It's becoming more visible because the local contrast gets enhanced between the smaller parts. I'm going to raise this again. Shit, that's wrong. Let me bring this back. I guess I'm just going to apply my filter again. There we go. So I do want him to be a little bit sharper. So we do this. And of course, I think this is a little bit too yellow. Let's go down to 2900, which is usually the place where I start for this venue. And I think it's already looking great. We can leave this picture as it is. It is retouched. Actually, you know what? No, one more thing. I'm going to go to the color balance. In the color balance, it's similar to the levels tool, to the tone curve tool, but it does a little bit more. You can change the color properties either in the shadows, in the midtones, or in the highlights. So I'm going to raise the highlights because these are the brighter parts of the picture, and obviously this is already blown out. But I want him to stand out. I want him to pop a little more. So if we raise the highlights, we can see that the bright colors in the pictures go up. And the midtones and lower parts stay as they are, the shadows. I can even darken the shadows a little. You can see here. But we don't want to do this too much because part of his hair is already black. But I want the shirt to be a little darker. So we're going to go down just a little bit. So now we have the photo. I'm going to show you quickly a before and after. This is before and this is after. You can see that we have more natural colors. We have a bit more mood, I think, and it pops more than it did before. Next photo. I think from here we can go faster because a lot of what I'm going to do now is just the same stuff that I already have explained to you. Let's try 2900. This guy is very evenly lit, it's very flat. Like the only real differences in light is you can see is around here, around the edges of his face. He has a little bit of a rim light. Perhaps you can work with that, but might not be too much we can do here. As far as distractions go, this thing is distracting. It just stands out. So we're going to go crop and rotate and crop this out just to the edges. We don't want to crop more than we need to. There we go. And now we have no more distractions in the picture, and this gentleman and this lady are the center of attention. Let's bring this up a little bit, perhaps. Let's see what we can do to add a little bit of feature to his face. Yeah, no, it's just gonna start looking odd. I'm just gonna reset this or just undo this one. Better way might just be to do a little bit extra equalizer. Yeah, some local contrast. Might as well add a little bit of sharpness, and then if we go to the color balance tool, we can raise the gamma, so that's the midtones a little bit, so the dark parts stay dark. Oh, there we go. See, already we have a little bit more contrast and a little bit more plasticity to the image. Next one. Ta-da! Here we can go 16 by 9 again. Actually, no, you know what? I want to crop away this stuff. Like all of this is distracting. Like if we crop it to here, then we should keep the original aspect ratio. So we go to crop and rotate, original image. Something like this seems fine. Right, there we go. And now you can see he's ever so slightly out of focus. There's something we can do about that. It's not the best solution. It's never the best solution. You just want to shoot a photo that's in well focused, you know. But with the light conditions that you have in bars like this, it's not always the easiest thing. So here's what I'm going to do. I just raise the fine, the curve in the fine parts to get a little bit more definition out of stuff like his eyebrows or his hair, and he looks just a little bit sharper. And we do the white balance. That's the usual stuff. 2,900. Perhaps if you're wondering what the hell is Matt doing in terms of clicking, this is a right mouse click. Okay, then you get this little curve here where you can very, very precisely do this. It's better than moving the slider because you can be more like if you move it down here, you can go. You know, actually, if you go here, and you see, you can go like you can have very small increments, and then if you go here, you have larger increments. So we're going to go to down to 2,900 something ish, and I think now he's looking good. There's always the idea of putting a vignette because why not? You know, it kind of looks nice. It adds a little bit of it directs the attention a little bit, right? So there's our vignette. This is before, no vignette. This is after, and now we have a vignette. Next photo. She's already looking great. As you can see, I added my local contrast and this general filters, and you can see that on her forehead, the highs are blown out a little. Like it's just plain white here. But I think there's detail that we can bring back because it's not lost in the image. It's just we can't see it right now because it's a little bit overexposed. First thing we could do is just try to lower the exposure overall, which, you know, now you can see that this is looking a little bit less blown out, and it's already doing the trick. This is already what we needed to do. The other thing you could do is you could just go to color balance, and you might remember we have the gain here, which is the highlights, and you just lower the highlights. So you're not going to affect anything but the highlights, and you see that we're bringing the detail back on our forehead. It's no longer blown out and white, but we have the color details here. We have very nice gradients and shifting between the colors. Two ways you could do this. In this case, I actually prefer to just lower the exposure because it's nice to have this overall look a little bit darker. And you see in the histogram, like we're bringing back a little bit of the whites here. That's pretty cool, and we're not really, you know, on the shadow side, like there's nothing really that gets lost in the darkness at all. And again, I always have these little corners up here that kind of annoy me, so I just crop them out. Because, you know, the better we can go, the better we can play with the attention of our viewers. The more we can do this, the better. Ta-da! There's a lot going on in this picture, a lot of people, but the important thing about this picture is that there's just one person who is actually facing the audience. So, you know, once somebody looks at these pictures, they're immediately going to be drawn to this girl's face. That's what they're going to see right away. Did I put my filter stuff? Yeah, I did. Let's bring this down to 2,900. Yeah, we could make this a little bit warmer. Go to 3,000 perhaps. Yeah, that's kind of nice. And again, I think there's very even light here. We don't need to have it that even. We can put something around the edges, a little bit of a vignette. These are standard tools I use. You can obviously go wild with your photos. Like for instance, a thing that I not often actually, but sometimes like to do is you can give them a certain look. Like if you go, actually I'm going to do this on a photo, on one of the upcoming photos to show you, but if you go in the shadows and you change their tint a little bit towards blue, you're going to get a really cool effect. So that's something you could do. And then you play with the highlights to perhaps even it out a little. Another thing is, if you watch movies, like remember two movies, okay? They're both on Netflix. Take a look at the movie Payback with Mel Gibson, the 1999 version. I think that's the only one that's on Netflix. If you look at the colors, you're going to see that the movie has a blue tint. It's supposed to be a film noir, a neo film noir. So they have applied a filter that makes the whole film look blue and dark in a way. And that's a very, very stylized type of movie. That could be a kind of look you want to be going for in your photos. So try to replicate that stuff. And the other one you might want to look at is The Imitation Game. That is a movie set in the I think late 30s, early 40s. It's about Alan Turing. And you'll see that the colors in this movie are there's a little bit of a sepia shift to it, and they drained the colors a little. They lowered the saturations, which is a typical thing that they do when they have movies set in the first half of the 20th century. It's supposed to have that old-timey 50s type of look. That, of course, the world looked the same back in the 50s, but this is how it's a visual message. It's a visual cue that audiences subconsciously pick up on. So depending on how you want your photography to look, you can try to replicate what movies are doing. It's also where I'm coming from. Like I'm a movie buff. I'm a TV show fan, and that's something that I bring into my pictures a lot. Hence the 16:9, which I think is actually a good aspect for this picture. And since this guy's neck up here is out of the frame, we can just crop it like that. The neck is the bright part that might distract people. So like that, we have actually, this is pretty cool, right? I think I like that a lot. Okay, next one. Just a note for when you're shooting. Try to find these moments when you can see somebody's face through a tunnel of people. You can see how, like, you have two people in the front, in the foreground. You have Xavier coming in here, and you have like these are different layers of people, and this is the only girl that's looking in our direction. This, I think, is something that is going to have a strong effect on the viewers. In terms of cropping, we stay with the original image because I don't want to lose the effect of this. Like I still want to have the effect of this tunnel. But you see this little piece of his hand down here? Again, distraction, let's get rid of it. All right, just like that. There we go. And this picture again is fairly yellow. Let's see what happens if I put it down. Still kind of yellow, so if we go to the tint and we shift this a little bit to the left, it's going to turn more red. Like, if I go crazy, it's going to go really, really red. But something like this, we have a little bit of a red tint. And again, we can have a very subtle vignette added to it. Perhaps a little bit less red. You'll also notice that after you're done with all this and you go back to the light table, I don't know if, I'm pretty sure it's very similar on if you use Lightroom, but you'll see the photos side by side and you're going to notice, oh, you know what, the way I retouch this doesn't merge at all or blend at all with the other photos. Let me go back and redo this. Like, for instance, I could now go back to this at the beginning and say, you know what, it's kind of more red than, this one and this one. Like, if you look at these ones, you see the difference. So I can go back and perhaps just turn it a little bit more in this direction, make it a little bit more yellow, and perhaps even get rid of, perhaps just bring it down to 3,000. See, and we have it a little bit closer to the look of the other photos. So, yeah, lots of ideas, lots of things you can do. I'm sure you have your own practices, your own methods of doing things that you have refined over the years. So if you think of anything that you do all the time, I'd love to hear from you. It might be really interesting to figure out or to find out what you're doing. This line is a little bit skewed. Why don't we rotate this image? The crop and rotate. Where is it? Oops. Crop and rotate, and we bring it. Oops. We want to have this like like this. It becomes a nice dividing line, and we can put a lens correction here. You should automatically understand what lens you're using. And you see the difference. It just corrects the fisheye effect on the edges of the lens and gives us a little bit more of a straight even line here. And obviously this picture is a prime contender for 16:9 or widescreen. Why don't we go widescreen? It's just slightly different. Widescreen is this, 16:9 is this, 1.85. These are all movie aspect ratios, or 16:9 is often HD TV or TV shows, modern TV shows that is. And there we go. There's our photo, right? Like we have these people. He's looking very happy that he's being photographed, but you know what? He's gonna live with it. And we do this. If you're a photographer from Unalingo, or if you do event photography, you probably know that once in a while people will come up to you and say, "Hey, I don't want to be photographed." Otherwise, they're going to do this. They're going to say this in a more subtle way by just turning their face away or shielding it with their hands. If you notice that, just keep that person in mind. Perhaps approach them, show them the photo you just took, and ask them if they're cool with it, or just tell them, "You know what? I noticed you're not happy. I'll be sure to avoid you in the future." Sometimes they will also afterwards just send you a picture and. You know, when they see it on Facebook and say, you know what, I don't like that picture, let's take it down. So, like for instance, this guy ended up being cool with it. There we go. This picture I think looks great. Like I don't even need to do much here. The only thing, perhaps crop it a little because you have some bright stuff up here and here, and you have this area where nothing's really happening, but it's bright and distracts the eye. I wouldn't get rid of it completely, but just make it a little bit less. You know, now it's not so distracting. Like nobody's going to look here easily, but everybody's now focused on this guy who's. I really like this photo. He's in perfect focus, and look at the light. You know, the transitions of his light from shadows to highlights is perfect. It's great. There's nothing here I need to do. And this is one of those tunnel images where we shoot through a crowd of people and we get to the subject that is at the end. Why not some 16 by 9? Because last time we had a tunnel picture, we didn't do it, so this time we do. There we go. Nice. Next one. Dun 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 dun. Yeah. So you know, things aren't gonna get too much different from here on in. So I'm not gonna bore you by showing you everything I'm gonna do. But let's see. Let's perhaps do 3 or 4 more together, and then I'm going to stop this video and I'll be curious to hear what you have to say about it. Again, you see cropping out the distractions. I want her. I was kind of focusing on her, but my camera picked up more on him. She's only slightly out of focus, which is fine. Like he's fine as well, but she's more like she's the first thing we look at because she's facing the audience and she's in the middle of this group of 3. So let's try to give her a little bit more detail, a little bit more definition. You can see now she's a little bit sharper, and then on the fine side, we can always go up to the top. The change on the very fine side here is almost imperceptible. So just is more like a psychological effect for me. It's like I'm happy it's there. Nobody's gonna know, but I did it, and I can sleep safely and peacefully at night. There we go. Perhaps a little bit too red at this point, so let's go down to the white balance. Do this. If you use Darktable, go through this. Like the first time you install Darktable, you're going to find that this section here, which is your favorites, is empty. So you can pick from all of these different modules here. You can pick the effects that you like most. And unfortunately, there's no option here that says make it a favorite, but you go to more modules, and here you can select all the modules that Darktable has available. It's a whole lot, and you will see that I haven't even activated all of them. Like if they're grayed out, they're not showing up in any of these categories. And break input profile, for instance, would go in here. I don't even know what that does, okay? So there's so much you can do. But the first time you click on it, it gets added to the category where it belongs to. The second time you click it, it becomes a favorite. And then again, you undo it. Like I said, I'm not using them. Down the line, I'll just, try different things and learn more stuff, and then I'll, experiment and find out what these do. This is all literally what pretty much anything I do in life in terms of computers and programming or retouching photos or anything like that is trial and error. Let's see what happens if I press this button. If you break it, you just undo it. It doesn't matter. I just remembered one thing I wanted to show you. I remember earlier I talked about how we can get a really cool effect by really changing the features of our colors. So why don't we use this picture as an example? I'm gonna go ahead and first of all bring the temperature to what we usually have. Let's just kind of close it to this. And I think overall we can expose this a little more. You can see there's something blown out here. You can see on the histogram, but we can go a little bit brighter. It's just to bring him a little bit out, and this is not so bad. And then we crop this to 16 by 9 because the stuff at the top is now, it was too bright before, it's too bright now, and it's distracting. Or widescreen, doesn't matter. Here we go. And now let's apply the color balance module. So if I go and turn the shadows blue, you'll see how, all the dark parts of the picture are turning blue. Now let's make the shadows darker. And you'll see already we have a really cool effect with this blue kind of hue that's going on. Perhaps even go a little bit more into turquoise. And then we go the midtones, which are going to be like parts of his face here, or midtones like that. And then later we'll do the highlights, which are the brighter parts, like something here on his neck or this parts on his shirt. I love going from in the darker parts from blue, and then in the brighter parts to more natural skin tones, but perhaps a little bit more red, a little bit more yellow. You see how his skin is it's going into a bit of a sepia direction, which I'm really fond of. And now let's raise the midtones a little. Perhaps let's see what we can do. What happens if we add some green? No, then we're going back to a more boring look. What happens if we do this? Yeah, a little bit more red. Again, play and see what happens in front of your eyes. And you get a very groovy look. I like this. I think it's pretty cool. Perhaps even a little bit more red in the darks. Like that. Right? So let me show you the before and after. This is before. This is after. Another module you can do the same thing with is the color correction module, which by the way is freaking awesome. I love this module. There's so much you can do with it. You have this dot here. This is the highlights dot, and if you move it, it's going to reveal the shadows dot. You could just move the shadows where you want them and the highlights where you want them, but it doesn't really give you much control over the midtones. But here also you can see how you can manipulate the picture and like give it a even more extreme type of look, right? There. Then you can, if you just scroll with the mouse wheel, you lower and or raise the saturation. This is some really cool stuff happening here right now. No, this is ugly. I kind of like this. This is actually pretty cool. Yeah. Yeah, let's keep this picture like this. And you know what? I'm going to leave you with this, so you see what you can do. There are more modules that I use on a less regular basis, but that are really useful, really cool. Like for instance, this module, which takes a while to understand, takes a lot of practice until you really know what's going on with this. But damn, is it awesome! A lot of modules also do the same things, just like they're arranged in a different way. Like in the one you have sliders, and the other one you have a curve, but the end effect is the same. But between the modules, there's always some functionality that one module has and the other one doesn't. And once you get into this program, man, it's amazing. And the best thing about it is that being a Linux program, being an open source program, this is entirely free. You download it, you install it, and you go right away. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we have a couple of other resources. Raw Therapy is spelled like this. This is the other one that's basically Darktable and Raw Therapy are the two big open source alternatives to Adobe Lightroom. So this is the other one you could try. If you're a Windows user, perhaps go with Raw Therapy. Or if you already have Adobe Lightroom, then I don't see a reason why you would change it, right? $10 a month. I think you even get Photoshop as well. So go there if you feel like you have to. Personally, I don't see why. I know like a lot of people say, go take, yeah, like you need to be a Photoshop user, you need to be a Microsoft Office user, because otherwise you're not a professional. And I don't know, people like my work. People, I get a lot of positive feedback about my photography, and I haven't paid a single cent for any Adobe products. So just be a good photographer, perhaps, is my advice. And yeah, I mean, you know, look at what you want to use, and then you just inform yourself what's out there. I mean, obviously Microsoft, like if you're a heavy Office user, there's no way around Microsoft Office. Like all the other shit, like Open Office, LibreOffice is fine, but it's not a long-term thing that you want to really work with. But yeah, anyway, this is my quick rant about open source software. So use Darktable if you can, if you're on Mac, or if, I don't know, you might be on Linux, who knows. Use that. Otherwise, perhaps look into raw therapy or keep using Lightroom if you're already using it. And I hope this video has been useful to you. I really hope this gives you a little bit of insight or a little bit of ideas of how do I work with this, what do I do, and I'm happy you watched. Thank you so much, and I hope we'll be in touch soon. Please don't hesitate to contact me by commenting wherever you see this video or just dropping me a line. Bye bye.